Hello and welcome to my channel for news about the Fact Gossip 24. Please follow and subscribe for more information. Alana, your friend, is me. Let's begin. I believe the family Chantel's heartbreaker Pedro Jimeno's alpha male attitude has ruined his life. The family Chantel star Pedro Jimeno has an alpha male attitude that's destroyed his relationships and ultimately ruined his life now that the series has come to an end. Pedro and Chantel's relationship started when he began tutoring her in Spanish, which ultimately resulted in the pair meeting up during a trip to his native country, the Dominican Republic. Chantel and Pedro got engaged on the trip, but kept things a secret from their families as Pedro made the journey from his home country to Atlanta, Georgia to be with his new fiance. Chantel and Pedro's issues started quickly thereafter. While Pedro and Chantel seemed like they were interested in each other genuinely, the motivations for their marriage appear to have been different from the start now that it's over. Chantel was deeply in love with Pedro, and seemingly wanted to be with him for the rest of her life considering their marriage. Pedro, on the other hand, was difficult to read once the couple was married, as their families meddled in their relationship, driving Pedro and Chantel to distrust one another. Things became clear to the family Chantel viewers, and I began to understand Pedro's attitude was the problem. While things have changed since Pedro and Chantel's divorce became public knowledge, one thing that hasn't is Pedro's behavior. The family Chantel star has been more outward, more interested in sharing his life, and more heavy-handed with the content he produces since the divorce. The fact that Pedro has been spending his time post-divorce trying to rebuild his brand and profit off the time he spent on reality TV with Chantel has rubbed many the wrong way. Seeing him struggling to stay relevant but trying to do so anyway has kept many believing that Pedro has an alpha male complex. As Pedro has moved through his life, he's always been seen as more self-centered than others surrounding him. When Pedro and Chantel first found each other and were introduced on 90 Day Fiance, it was clear that she saw him in a light that was different than others. Chantel saw potential in Pedro, and she knew that if it was possible to unlock that potential, she'd be able to dig down deep to find it alongside Pedro's family to find a way through his tough exterior. Pedro and Chantel's marriage was just one instance of the family Chantel star continually putting himself over others. In his relationships, Pedro has found it easier to think of himself rather than thinking of anyone else. Even though Chantel may have had a rocky start finding Pedro and choosing to marry him, his family had known him throughout his life and saw a consistent display of difficult behavior. Pedro's self-centered nature was always something that caused him to struggle with others and pushed those who he cared about away in the interim. While Pedro wasn't initially showing signs of having an alpha male attitude, his demeanor changed after he got to know Chantel on a more personal level. Pedro's attitude, which pushed him to be assertive and tried to gain a strong sense of control in his daily life with Chantel, impacted everything, including their relationship. While the sometimes domineering traits that attracted Chantel to Pedro were something she was happy to see at the start of their relationship, ultimately became one of the reasons for the end of their marriage. Pedro's attitude manifested in his actions frequently on the family Chantel, making it clear to viewers that he was far more of an alpha than he seemed on 90 Day Fiance. Chantel's hope for their relationship was to feel supported, knowing she had someone on her side, but instead, she felt isolated and alone in a lot of moments of her marriage. Pedro's inability to see the lack of healthy communication he had with Chantel was an issue made things even more difficult. Unable to see beyond himself, Pedro made it clear that he wanted to be in charge. While Pedro and Chantel were having their own issues, Pedro's relationships with his mother Lydia Morel and his sister Nicole Jimeno were also in jeopardy. Pedro seemed to struggle with anyone who could appear like an authority figure, which made his wife, mother, and sister all difficult for him to contend with through his own self-centered lens. Pedro's alpha male mentality may not have been good for his relationship with his ex-wife, but it did damage to his familial relationships as well, even with his mother and sister consistently pushing back against his behavior. Pedro's mother Lydia was a difficult part of the family Chantel, especially because of her difficult relationship with Chantel, but her time with her son proved that his behavior was a problem of his own making. Lydia and Nicole often called Pedro out for his behavior, especially when it came to prioritizing them in his life. Though they understood he was married to Chantel, They struggled to be able to rationalize how he could be putting himself above them and his wife at the same time, which created some serious friction within the family. While Pedro may have his own reasons for his behavior, the fact that his selfish alpha male persona has caused so many issues on the family Chantel has pushed his fans away. Chantel, who viewers have been happier with after the end of the family Chantel, has been able to keep her reputation clean while Pedro has struggled to maintain a following of viewers from the show. Personally, I think Pedro's persona has become unbearable to watch, and it appears that other former fans agree. Watching Pedro's alpha male antics have made him totally unlikable. Although Pedro's once charismatic persona was interesting to watch evolve under pressure, things haven't been easy for him since the family Chantel came to an end. Although his persona isn't necessarily who he is at his core, Pedro has made it clear that he's selfish, and by prioritizing his alpha side, has chosen to embody his persona in public. Even though the family Chantel's no longer airing, Pedro's still clinging onto the idea that former viewers could find him entertaining enough to follow, but his nature has made it a serious turn-off.